Okay, for this next session, it's going to be called If Then. Okay? And it's kind of practical in the sense that you guys know for every action there's a
Opposite.
reaction.
Equal and opposite reaction.
Right? Okay. So years ago, when I was a young guy, I'm giving away my age, there was a command called If Then in Basic 2, which was TRS 80's programming language. You guys ever heard of it?
Mm-hmm.
They used to call it Trash 80s. Well, you probably know that, right?
I know that.
So TRS 80s, I was one of the first, it was the first home version of computers, and my dad happened to have one. In fact, he made me take typing so that I would use it. And was the precursor to me using it was I had to take typing. So it was with all these girls in typing class, me and one other guy.
They don't even have
So anyway, so I know how to type today. But so I would actually go to school, and the teacher would ask me questions because I was so good that I was programming my own video games in BASIC. You guys remember the game Tron with the light cycles? Okay, so I actually was able to program that. I was working on Defender, but it was pretty hard. I don't know if you guys remember Defender.
Mm-hmm, sure do.
Yeah. So I was pretty good, but it was so slow. That's why I got discouraged, because the computer couldn't handle it. But I programmed all that with what's called if-then commands. Okay? And so basically, if-then means that if something equals, I'll go ahead and just put it up here. So as an example, if, well, you know, guys know Sean's getting married next month, right? So he just moved out of the house, bought his own place, and Maria's not cooking for him as much. But if he got home before me and he ate all my food, okay, if Sean ate all food,
Dad goes hungry.
then Dad is hungry, and somebody said something else.
Mad.
Comma,
Driving to Burger King.
mad. And going to Burger King and transport later.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so again, for every action, there is a reaction, okay? So, you guys know when you go to the beach, Coors ice cream? You guys know what I'm talking about?
No clue.
No,
Yeah.
Oh,
Coors
Soft
ice cream.
serve.
Oh, no.
you've been deprived if you haven't had Coors ice cream.
Right.
Pretty much every boardwalk has Coors. Well, I happen to be a friend of Archie Court, who is a grandson of one of the brothers. And he told me this story that back in the Depression is when the soft or custard style ice cream was invented, and his grandfather actually invented it. And it's kind of amazing. The first weekend that they opened, they had 18,000 cones sold. And this was during the Depression era. So they had a great thing going there, and of course today it is what it is. Well, recently when we were at the beach, my girls were with me and Maria, and we went up to the Coors stand, and my oldest daughter is a sales clerk for American Eagle, and so I'm teaching her some sales things, and recently she helped me showcase at Nature-Cide at the New York, Long Island branch, and she did such a good job helping me at the booth. Jim Harity was trying to recruit her for another manufacturer for the clam bake, but it didn't work out, thankfully, because I didn't want her doing that for another manufacturer. But I told her, I said, if you do it, Alicia, I know all those products, so I can help you. But so I'm now teaching her sales things, right? And so when we were at Core Brothers stand, there was this young lady there that had this real friendly disposition. And she was just like, you could just tell before the customer ever really engaged with her, she was already looking very friendly, smiling. And you could just tell that the customer was going to have a good experience with this girl. Just the way she presented herself, the way she interacted with the customers. And I pointed it out to my daughter. I said, look, I said, you see this girl here? I said, you see how she is behaving before the even customer engages with her. And it was good to see somebody young that understands that posture is everything. So, how does this play out with us? Because we know that for every action, there is a reaction, and the question is, can we control this with this? Okay, and I'm going to tell you, I suggest that we can control this. We can control how our customer responds to us. We can reduce callbacks. We can reduce complaints because of what we do on the if side. Now, we can't control what the customer may have in mind, what we're presented with, okay? For instance, if we show up and the customer is already mad, then we have to decide how we're going to respond, okay? Because that's what's going to happen. How we respond is over here. So we can control from the beginning the if we smile, if we talk politely, and if we say, do you have any questions? We can also say, oh, while I'm treating, if you have any questions while I'm applying, please feel free to ask. That is an inviting atmosphere for the customer, and they realize that we're on their side, that we're not hiding anything, we're not ashamed of the products we're using, we're not inferior, we're not intimidated by what we're doing, and that we're very confident. By asking your customer to ask you questions, you get the result of their respect, their confidence in you, and usually a paying customer, and less problems on the backside. Meaning after you leave, they're not going to be scratching their head going, I wonder if that guy really knew what he was doing. I wonder if he treated in a manner that is making my family or my pets unsafe. Right? Okay. So we know that we can't always control the ifs when we get there. We know that there's going to be situations that we're presented with that are not the ideal situation. They're already frustrated. Maybe there was an assumption during a previous treatment that they thought things would go this way. It could be a routine customer, and all of a sudden now a variable change that we have no control over. The customer maybe changed a variable, and now it's something that we have to deal with, but we didn't create the problem, but the customer is frustrated because their expectation was that, hey, you told me I wasn't going to have bugs, or you told me I wasn't going to have rodents, For instance, commercial account, they get a shipment of a pallet that is infested with mice, right? But it's our fault, right? According to the customer, it's our fault. Hey, you told me we weren't going to have mice. So now we're presented with a variable that we have to deal with, and we're thrown into this category if we have a situation. So while we can't always control those if conditions walking into it, we can control the outcome by what we choose to do, by our reaction to the situation we're presented with. So every situation is unique, of course, but we have the option to choose how professional we respond, or I should say, if we choose to be professional. If we're going to get into a debate, or if we're going to respond in the same manner that they are, right? Because they're coming huffy and puffy. And so the professional thing to do is to listen to their concerns, listen to their complaints, let them air it out. Let them get all those ifs out, okay? Let them get it all out. And then repeat back to them, okay, so I understand. So here's the situation. You're having this and this and this, okay? And so sometimes by going back through it with the customer, what happens is that the situation is replayed, but now it's replayed in a different light. They told you the situation according to what their user experience was, right? But we know that sometimes when we talk about it and we go back, we say, okay, so let's get this right. So you got a shipment, or sometimes asking those questions. Did anything change? Did you get a shipment recently of something that could have been infested? Can I go inspect those pallets? Can I go look around those areas? Sometimes rehearsing it without being confrontational with them is a good way to engage the customer and replay it, but now we see what really happened, and it really didn't have anything to do with what we were doing or what we did. It has to do with a variable change, and now let's talk about that, and let's see how we can. Now we are the answer again, but we're not the problem, which is what they thought we were because of a lack of treatment or lack of foresight. So that's one way to do it, is to play it back, and then always to empathize with that customer, that they know that you're on their side. Hey, we're a team. We're going to get this done. Yeah, wow, that situation. Okay, I get it. Yeah, it's presented. So now let's deal with it. Let's what can we do together to resolve this issue? Right? We're a team. So you don't want to ever get into a situation where it's their expectation versus us not delivering in their minds. So we want to reach out to them, reconnect, and say, okay, what can we do? Let's look at this. Let's figure it out. And letting them know that you are as interested and even more interested in resolving their issue than they are. Because you care, because your reputation's on the line, because you want that customer to be totally satisfied. And when you do that, you'll quickly win them back, even if there was things that weren't able to be controlled at the time. So just remember that there's sometimes you can't control the ifs, but your predisposition, your posture, your how you carry yourself going into an account is going to determine this. So you can't control everything, but you can control how the customer sees you when they first come in. So I'm always smiling. I have pre-programmed myself to smile. When a customer pulls up, but I'm already out there power spraying with Nature-Cide, they pull up, and as soon I wave. It's instinct. I've trained myself. Hey, how you doing? Right? I don't have anything to hide, and so I'm not like, oh gosh, I shouldn't be spraying here, or whatever. So when the customer answers the door, I'm the same way. I've programmed myself. As soon as that door is opening, I'm smiling. Hey, how you doing? Beautiful day. These are things that you would want people to do for you. And the other thing is being able to separate your personal problems from your professional career, and that's a big one. You could have had a situation where you found out that your kid got in trouble at school. Your wife's just texting you and saying, it's pretty frustrating, right? You're like, oh my gosh, But you have to be able to separate that. That's not your customer's problem, and it shouldn't be your customer's problem while you're there. So being able to separate that is a good thing, and it's the right thing to do. Now, I remember when my father-in-law passed away, I got that phone call. I had to tell the customer, I said, listen, I apologize, I need to go. My father-in-law just passed away. I'm going to finish up what I'm doing right here, and we'll, it's to resolve the issue that you're having. But as far as the preventative stuff on the outside, we'll have that rescheduled. And of course, that customer was understanding. I mean, if they weren't, I would be kind of like, do we really want this person as a customer?
That account.
Yeah. But so you have situations like that, okay? but that's another good example of an if then, you know. So, and by the way, I did. So the way the if command works, just to finish this up. So the if would have different variables. You could say if this was greater than, or if then was equal to, and then you would have the then command over here. And so you could assign properties to this. So if something equaled over here, then you would tell it what you want it to do, okay? It's kind of like you show up on an account. If the customer has yellow jackets, then you do this, right? Okay? So just keep in mind, you can control. There's a lot of things that you can control, even though there's many things that you can't. Okay?
Like if you under promise, over deliver, you get happy customers and good reviews. And return business, reoccurring. Yeah, maybe a golden apple or something. Okay.
Right. It's a great example.
Sometimes.
Right. So you created the if experience, which is the good thing. Okay. Thank you guys.
Thank you.